Hello, and welcome to episode 76 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is my podcast where I chat with the World Wide Web people. This week's friend is a very cool musician and performer who I was very lucky to have on to inquire about how he got his musician chops, how he lives that LA lifestyle, how he takes cool nature photographies, living the Brand Van 3000 song Surfin in LA. I'm talking, of course, about Kiefo Nilsson at Kiefo Nilsson. You gotta go check out his performances, linked in the show notes, and I'll bet you'll be interested to hear. This was a very nice conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Friends of the Show, episode 76 with Kiefo Nilsson. It's pretty good.
Cool. Does that come through too? I'm just making sure everything is
Yeah, that sounds great.
great. It's all plugged into my mixer, you know, and sometimes
Sweet.
sometimes
great.
it does weird things is all.
And what about the
Sometimes
bass?
it
What about
does
the drums?
weird
Can we get a test? What about the triangle? How does that sound? Ding, ding, ding.
Triangle's downstairs, man. I can't.
Man, you don't have the triangle set up?
I do have I have a kalimba.
Oh, that's the thumb one, right?
That's the thumb one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, I love cool musical instruments. I love all studios that have like things you just like grab off the wall and start messing around with.
That's literally the only one.
That's it. Oh, I'm just like when you pulled out when you just appeared with the kalimba, I was like, oh, just started imagining what room you're in.
Oh.
It's just like
I have this flute, this wood flute that I don't know how to play. But I can't make a sound out of it, so I don't even know.
well, you can definitely tell that is a flute. We can definitely tell that you do not know how to play it. We can. So where'd you get the flute? Where'd you get the kalimba? Let's get some history on these instruments.
I think the kalimba was, just like a Christmas gift or something, like a stocking stuffer type thing, or maybe a birthday present, just like random,
Right.
you know.
When you're a musician, people are like,
Yeah,
what
people
are we
get
gonna get
stuff
them? Well, let's
sometimes.
just go to the music store and pick something.
The flute is a kind of better story though, because that was my high school art teacher, who I didn't even have a class with. I went to a very small high school that was just like everyone kind of knew everyone there. Like it was just really small vibe, but my high school art teacher basically, like it was maybe like the year after high school, had a party, like a get together with some alumni, I guess, and it was a small gathering of people at his place, dinner, and then he wanted to show off some like a photo slideshow. It was very kind of an odd evening. And then he also wanted to do an archery demonstration because he had been practicing Zen archery.
I was like, it doesn't sound too weird until
Just a very eclectic sort of a thing. Like he did all these things, and at one point I like picked up this flute that I saw. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. He's like, I have never been able to make a noise out of that thing, and if you can make a noise out of it, you can have it. And I fiddled with it for a bit, and I was able to make a noise out of it. He was like, yeah, you can have it, take it. But as you can see, I still didn't learn how to make a noise out of it. But it's a nice looking object. So
we heard the noise. Yeah, we all heard the noise. That's very cool. And it was the price is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty sweet. Christmas, stocking stuffer, and just a freebie. So
Yeah.
It seems to me like you should have acquired way more fun things to grab off the wall at this point.
I mean, no, there are some other stuff. There's like a guitar. I got a ukulele here. I've got all my basses.
That's what I was picturing.
There's an
yes.
upright bass. I got this piano. I've got a drum kit over there. Like there's stuff in my room. But it's not,
That's what we wanted to hear to fill out the space.
yeah.
Guitars on the wall.
It's not full of like quirky stuff. You know, I don't have like a hurdy-gurdy.
No weirdo.
There's no zither.
Synths. What about the
Dulcimer and all these things.
what's the vibration ones? It's theremin.
Oh, I do have a theremin though. That's in the garage.
Oh yeah. Haha. You're not cool unless you got a theremin. Is it like one of those new theremins? I've seen.
No, it's an older one, and it's actually the story behind that one. I probably shouldn't say this if you're recording it, but the story behind that one is it belonged to a friend of mine, and I wanted to borrow it, and I said, "Hey man," he didn't have a power supply for it, so he was like, he couldn't even use it. I wanted to borrow it, and I said, "Hey, I'm stealing your theremin." And then I just did.
If
and
you're
that was like
stealing
10
it,
years
if you
ago,
say
and
it.
he's never asked for it back, and he just kind of forgot that it even existed. So I basically
Well,
it's
if
on,
you're
on indefinite
listening,
loan
it's
until he
still,
wants it
yeah,
back.
exactly. It's still in good hands. We know where it is. It's
Well, because I
not.
bought a new power supply for it, so I already feel like I contributed to its
That's
existence
plus
in
we all
a
know about
positive way.
ownership and what percentage different things of ownership is. I guess you're currently in the United States. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in California.
In sunny California. What's it like
Yeah,
there today? How's the temps?
yeah, it's exactly what is sunny. It's
Just
about 75 degrees and
oh,
sunny.
just sunny
Perfect.
in mid
Maybe a
70s.
little less than 75, a little less.
Yeah,
But
72 and sunny.
yeah.
Just loving it. Oh, man, that was the
Perfect.
best. Yeah, I lived in California ever so briefly in Palm Springs, so a little bit warmer. But yeah, that's just the best. Just nice every day.
It really
Mm-mm-mm.
is, and you kind of do take it for granted a little bit. You don't mean to,
Yeah,
but after a
everybody
while, you
there.
just sort of take it for granted.
It's
Like
like
you
on
can't
like the
help it.
3 rainy days we had, like for how much people freak out when it's raining, you should be more thankful for your 90% nice sunny days.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, you will get those rain, like that's always great too. But it's the only weird thing about the great weather of California, Southern California especially, I find is that it does create for me a feeling of failure if I didn't go out and enjoy it every single day. Like if I
Mm,
sit inside doing anything, I feel like I've wasted my day. Even if I was doing productive things, like even if I was
right.
doing useful, business or whatever, I
Hmm.
still feel bad if I didn't get outside to like enjoy the sunshine.
Yes, I
And I
agree.
don't feel like you have that pressure
No,
in places that don't have that.
especially if like it's March and the sun doesn't come out and it's like it's gray. Eh, yeah, it's like good to go outside. I know it's fine, but when you see that it's so windy and there's snow everywhere and it's all gray, it's just a little bit harder to go out.
So where are you at?
I'm in Southern Ontario, Canada. So Hamilton is the city. Nearby to Toronto, I would say. Better than
All right, so it is
honestly.
Toronto. See, because my whole life I've been saying Toronto,
Yeah, that's how we know that you're not from Toronto.
right? And I only just recently learned that that's like that's a big red flag.
It's
Like that's
like a
like a
thing.
blaring thing
Yeah.
that like I had no idea. I was just like Toronto. That's what it's called. But
Yeah.
I only
I
just
mean, that
very recently
is
learned, like a
what it's
couple months
called.
ago,
But I
that
guess,
it's Toronto.
it's a thing like where you have to, if you have to say it all the time, you just drop that extra, you just drop that second T.
Yeah, I
Toronto.
suppose.
Toronto.
I suppose Toronto.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
I mean, I
Toronto.
did hear someone say Toronto recently though, and I felt very vindicated because I feel like maybe they were Canadian or something. Maybe they were joking. I don't know,
But
but they
even
said it that way, and I
Canadian,
was
like, you
like, I
could be
was just vindicated for
Canadian.
a second.
You could
It's
be
like I'm not totally
Canadian.
crazy.
You can be Canadian and say Toronto. Like, if you're from
They don't they
Vancouver or
don't
you're
take they don't
from
take your like
Winnipeg.
Canada card away. Like,
No, but
okay,
the people in Toronto know that you're not from Toronto. They know you're from
fair enough. Yeah.
Squamish or whatever. What are some other? You're from Charlottesville. Have you ever visited Canada? Have you ever visited up north?
I have been to Canada a couple of times. I've been to Toronto a couple. I see. I can't not say it that way. I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's how it's
Um,
spelled on paper.
yeah, I can't not say it. I've been there a couple times. I've been there, and I've been to I went out to New Brunswick one time and Nova
Ah,
Scotia
the
one time.
East Coast.
Yeah, like
That's
all the way
nice.
further than the U.S. even goes.
Yeah, way out there. I've never been to the East Coast, but it's definitely on my list. My wife is dying to go. Her parents go like every year to visit their friends, or they did. But yeah, it's really just like different, more chill way of life. It's really different out there. That I hear. Right, I'd love to go check it out myself. What was your experience?
I dug it. I thought it was really cool. I mean, Halifax is like a really interesting thing because you wouldn't expect it to be as interesting as it is. I think 'cause it feels so remote, and yet it's like a pretty cool city. Like it's got a lot of stuff going for it,
Yeah.
and I was surprised to learn that there was apparently at some point, and maybe still to this day, a lot of like television production out there, or a lot of just video production out there.
Yeah.
Like that was one of its major industries.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I was also surprised to learn that the town exploded that one time.
Oh, yeah.
The curse of the Narrows, or whatever they call it, with the ship that blew up in the harbor that was
Yeah.
full of
We had
explosions.
Yeah, it was. I wish I recalled it, all the details at the moment. I should, because we had to watch this part of our heritage. like it's like a heritage moment series of like a founding moments of our country, and in this moment, like this clip of the Halifax explosion, it's like the operator who's trying to like warn people in the city. He's using like the Morse code, and he's like typing it out all frantically. He's like, we gotta warn them, and then he looks up and it like explodes.
Oh man.
And they're like, there was 1,300 souls lost that day, including Jim Smith, telegram operator. Like, oh no, he died too.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's just yeah. When I was visiting there, the people who I was staying with gave me a book called The Curse of the Narrows. It's all about that event, and I read it on the plane back, most of it anyway. But that was several years back. I don't remember many of the details, other than, I mean, just the story itself is it's so wild to think that such a thing could happen.
Yeah. Well, it's those straits are deadly.
And then I was also surprised, and I guess maybe I don't remember if this is related or not, but there's the cannons that go off in Halifax. I almost said Toronto again. In Halifax, there's like a cannon that goes off.
Okay.
In like midday, and it might be related to that. It might not be, but it's just a cannon that explodes in midday.
They just keep firing this cannon.
Yeah, it signifies something. I just don't remember what it is. It's been a while. I'm sorry, Halifax. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, Citadel Hill. Sure. Fire off some cannons. Yeah, I need to get out there. I need to learn all of this East Coast history. I just need to do it. So Toronto and East Coast. I've never been to the West Coast. It's just right up the street.
I know, relatively speaking. I've actually never been to Vancouver. I'd like to have been. I lived in Washington State for a little while.
Oh, it's basically the same.
Yeah, like the vibe I feel is pretty similar, but it was one of those things that it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, yeah, we should take a trip up to Canada, but we never did.
So easy. Just pop right over, head up to Whistler, head see the mountain.
Some friends who do live there, or maybe they've moved now, but they did live there. But again, just so many things you want to do that you just don't end up doing. I did hear that they're outside of Vancouver Island, right, is apparently the largest concentration of mountain lions in North America on Vancouver Island. Like,
oh, sweet.
Per acreage or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know by what metric, if it's total or per capita, I guess.
Yeah, it could be
it
could be per space, like per square kilometer.
I think Vancouver Island holds that record, or it's close. Then maybe it's just in the top 3 or something, and that's relevant to me because I do like the wildlife stuff.
Okay, so you're a bit of an outdoorsman.
Yeah, I actually kind of just, while I was saying that, I forgot that we know each other through Twitter. I don't think you know my Instagram at all, but my Instagram is a completely different persona. That's where I post wildlife photography that I do. And including down here in the Santa Monica Mountains, I had remote cameras, like trigger cameras set up that I was capturing photos of like bobcats and mountain lions and foxes and coyotes and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So then what do you do with those pictures? You have like a website, or you...
Well, Instagram. I just kind of put them on Instagram.
You just put them on Instagram for everyone to look at for free?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not like high quality photography. It's like these cameras are just kind of like...
Right, those are like hunting cameras kind of thing.
Yeah,
right,
those hunting cameras. Yeah, they're not very high quality. It's more just the
like
capturing of the moment. Yeah, like, it's just kind of cool.
Saw you. You walked by my camera.
Yeah, and sometimes people would walk by the cameras.
Oh, true.
Probably, I did this for like 3 or 4 years, and probably a dozen or so people, I'd get people's feet. Sometimes they'd pick up the camera, and I'd get a photo of their like curious, like, what is this
like,
expression?
Flash right in your face. I guess it doesn't really make a flash, but
the funny one was that one time I went up there and my camera was missing, and I always thought that might be a risk. One day someone might just take it if they'll find it and take it. And I would tuck them away, like they weren't just out in the open. But one time I went up and it was gone, and I was like, it's just the day that it's finally been taken. And I did have my phone number inside it and a little note, because I had a permit from the Parks Department kind of letting me do it. So I had a little note just explaining what it was. But I then checked the second camera, because I had 3 total. And I checked the second camera, and I had them positioned in such a way that if a mountain lion came by, I would be able to see like point A, B, C,
nice.
Where it was going.
Triangulation.
And I checked the second camera, and on that camera, I saw a photo of a park ranger walking out with my camera. And then later that afternoon, he called me. and he was not in the loop. Like I had been talking to one. There's like two different like sides of the agency, and I've been talking to one side and not his side. So they just needed to be on the same page that I was allowed to do it. But it was just really funny. I thought just like, to see on my other, like he got my one camera, but he didn't get my other camera.
Well, good camera hiding 2 out of 3. They just need to talk to each other more, those rangers.
And then one time the camera was gone, and I found it, and I got the same thing of just like, oh, well, I guess that's that. But then I went further on my hike, and then I found it just laying in the dirt, and like a couple hundred yards away. And then when I checked that footage, it was because literally a mountain lion picked it up and walked with it and dropped it again.
Oh, yeah, that's a jackpot.
Yeah, so I got a whole sequence of like really blurry, awful photos of it like just randomly taking shots. But the best one is that while it was falling, it managed to catch like just like the tip of the guy's like part of its arm or something like that. So you can see the fuzzy arm like in the black. It's pretty neat.
That's cool. Yeah, well, and you got your camera back and no one took it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was a massive fire a couple of years ago, 2018. Basically, the entire Santa Monica mountain range burned, and just by random happenstance, I didn't have my cameras out that day, so they survived the fire just because I, for whatever reason, brought them in.
Lucky,
so, lucky me.
Yeah, very lucky, and that's good. So you still have them. So you gonna like put them back out next season or whatever?
I don't know, because ever since the fire, I mean, maybe I'm ready to now.
Find a new
since
spot.
The fire, that really did, nuke a lot of the wildlife out there, basically, and it changed it so much that it's harder to hide them now. But yeah, it would be worth doing now that it's been some years, and stuff's starting to come back. It'd be worth doing to see what's still around, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So what other outdoor stuff are you into other than wildlife? You get up doing any sporting stuff out there, like other than hiking?
No, I mean really just hiking, backpacking, and I don't go backpacking here, but out in the Sierra mountain range, which is all like 11,000 feet, 12,000 feet. I go there a couple times a year for backpacking, and the current project right now is that I'm trying to learn how to surfboard, but like I don't know. It's kind of like I got a wetsuit, but I don't have a board yet, so I got to get the board before I can actually.
Get a board. You got to get wax, my guy. You got to get the scraper. Get all the gear,
and then you got to go down. Like the hardest part is you got to then go to a break, like a surf spot, and you have to deal with other surfers who don't want you there because you're a beginner.
Yeah.
Like they don't want beginners because beginners just take up space. So like you got to find a way to like get there and have fun without getting in other people's way. And I don't know, but I just figured, I'm 35 years old, been living in Southern California pretty much my whole life, and I've never been a surfer, so I'm bored. I want to do something,
Yeah, it's the perfect time and place to do it.
Those
are your point break years.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the hope anyway.
Yeah,
maybe I'll break my back or something.
I hope not.
I hope not either. But
you can start with like a boogie board or whatever, right? Isn't there is there some sort of escalating scale, like training wheels or something with surfing? Because I would have liked to do surfing too, but my balance is not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the first board that like you intend to get. It's basically a boogie board shaped like a surfboard. They call it a soft top. So it's like it is a foam soft board that you can like. It's more buoyant. It's easier to learn on.
Right. But you're just gonna skip that. Like
No. I think I'm gonna start there. No,
grab a soft top. Yeah. Grab a soft top. Then you do that running into the shallow surf or whatever, and you keep yourself propelled on those little waves.
Whatever you do. I mean, that's the other problem that I'm only just learning now, that the surf out here is actually like not that beginner friendly where I live. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. I hope so.
Just skip ahead to just grab a big board. Just go out there.
That's the weird thing about it. Like it really, for some reason, and it's probably the Beach Boys' fault, but for some reason, there's like the vibe to want to go surfing is exactly that. Just like, just go do it without thinking. And yet it's actually a difficult sport that you do want to think about. So,
yeah. No, it's no wonder that the people who do it are like super specific type. Yeah. Like everybody who does it is super ripped And it looks like they do it quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like the people who are out there doing it aren't like schlubby people. It's like
And I think also why the culture is so like insular. You're like you're
exactly.
either
Yeah.
in
You
or
have
out.
to.
It's hard to be a casual surfer.
There's
but
no casual. Yeah, you have to you have to like put in your time. You have to grind it out. You have to get chased off of the good beaches a bunch.
So I don't know. Who knows? I have yet to do it, so it's not the greatest story because it's just like I might do this thing in a couple weeks.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great thing that we can follow up on in a future episode.
It's definitely not the most exciting thing to say you might be doing something rather than you have done something.
Definitely might be hitting the biggest waves of all time. Blah, blah, blah. All right, very cool. Actually, did I even introduce you this week's guest?
Yeah, I mean, have we already started? I don't even know. We're just talking, right? So.
Yeah, we started. I Mark Maron these new episodes, or I don't know if Mark Maron does that, but just smoothly, we're just going. It's just a pod. I used to have it pretty formatted where it would be like the beginning is your introduction, and then we talk about Twitter and jokes, and maybe I read some of your tweets, and then we answer questions submitted by friends on Twitter, and it's a whole thing. It was so much to do. So now it's more of just a chill, just like every other podcast, just a couple of dudes just talking, but that's how it is,
I agree. I mean, sure.
That's
course,
right.
Why not?
You have to agree. So this week's guest, definitely agreeing. It's Kiefo Nilsson. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, that's my name.
It's Kiefo Nilsson. Very cool and fun name. Kiefo. It's like Keef and then an O. What are some fun nicknames? It's like a fun name. I'm having fun with it.
I mean, well, that actually is kind of a nickname. My first name's actually Keith, but my middle name is O, so I just sort of smush them together for Kiefo.
I get it. So the nickname became your main moniker.
Yeah, the idea behind it was sort of that it's sort of whenever I say Keith, people think I say Keith, like with a TH. So by saying Kiefo, it's more informative and it's easier and a little bit more memorable, and I prefer it generally. So
right, yeah, it's like Steve-O. That
Yeah,
famous
a little bit,
guy,
yeah.
a little bit distinguish yourself. Normal name. Now, boom, you're Steve-O.
Yep. Steve-O W. Skinner.
Yep. That's I went through a little Steve-O phase, and then my brother still calls me Steve-O sometimes.
I thought you were about to say then your brother's also named Steve, and I was...
My brother's name is Gordo, is what
Gordo.
they call him. Yeah, Gordo.
Okay. So yeah, there's something to those O nicknames just in general. I feel that
It flows pretty nice.
Flows pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. And if you take the FO and then the first two letters of your last name,
if I do that, what?
it would be phony.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. Well, that does reveal that, the Kiefo name might be a little phony. So
That's the secret. It's
That's the
hidden in
secret,
plain
yeah.
sight. Easter egg.
Yep.
Told for all the listeners now, so very cool. All right, so let's get to your story. This is the Mark Maron part. Who are your guys? Where'd you grow up? Now you're in California. Were you always there? Take us through it.
Yes.
Born and raised in California.
Moving on.
So you're born and raised in California, and
yes
now
to
you're
all.
now you're still here, still there.
Yeah, pretty much. I was technically born in New York State. I was there till I was about 2 or something like that. Then the family moved back to California.
But you don't remember that time.
Yeah, I don't know that it counts. I mean, I've pretty much lived in Southern California my whole life, so.
Well, that's pretty chill. It's like super chill, dude. You feel like a Southern California dude?
I don't know. Do I sound like a Southern California dude?
Yeah.
Do I have a little bit of that inflection?
Just a little bit of the Southern California vibe, yeah.
Yeah,
I can pick it up.
Sometimes I, but
If you start talking about directions, we'll be on that SNL sketch. The Californians.
the 101 to the 405.
Yeah. Okay, so living in California, growing up. So now, what do you do out there? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, recently no one's doing anything, right? Because of the whole pandemic.
Oh,
right?
yep. Sorry, I forgot to mention elephant in the room. Global pandemic at the time of this
Yep.
recording. Currently in our month 15, 14, 15 of the declared pandemic. I mean, it kind of popped off in December. We didn't really know, but then January, February, things started to heat up, 2020. And then in March, that's when they're like, oh, yeah, everyone, things are different now. so
Yeah.
so
Things
how
are
did it go
different
for
now.
you? How did all the how did the pandemic play out so far? So far, still healthy and good? No COVID-19 infection?
Yeah, I'm totally fine, and I
That's
got
good.
fully vaccinated recently, so
Wow,
like I'm pretty happy about
congratulations
that. My
on
family
that.
is all vaccinated. Like
Oh,
everything's
amazing.
good.
That's great.
It feels like it's almost over. It probably isn't actually almost over. There's
Hmm.
probably still some months to go, but it's starting to feel more normal, which is good. But yeah, just to go back to what you were saying, what I do, I am a musician by training and by trade. I play music wherever and however I can.
By training and by trade. So what was the training?
I did, well, I went to the Berklee College of Music, but only for a little while. And then other than that, I've just mostly self-taught, to be fair, but I've had, a handful of teachers over the years as well.
Oh, that's pretty good. So you like took a couple years, or you took a year and a bit and just like learned what learning about music is like.
Yeah, more or less. And then, of course, like I mentioned, like I went to a pretty strange high school. One of the things that made it pretty strange was that a friend of mine put it like its music program was kind of like the sports program of a typical high school, and our sports program was just really terrible. But like the music was like the main event. We put on these big concerts, and like people
Right.
from town would come to see them and stuff. And
Hmm.
so that was also kind of like a proto college experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So more
That
of
I
like
felt
a
it was like a
performing
kickstart.
arts focused high school where they put a lot of resources into the music side.
Yeah, and doing it in a way that was very contemporary and very cool, like just to give the students a lot of opportunity to just like be performing and playing a lot, which was really cool. And not every school kind of does it that way. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if they have more contemporary sort of setups, like with guitar players playing like electric guitar, and it's not just like trumpets and trombones
yeah,
or whatever,
not just like band
and
instruments.
timpanis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
like
and that's really what it was. Is we just had like a band, with I was playing bass and there was guitars and singers and drums and all this. There was some horn players as well, but playing contemporary music. So.
yeah, that's the good kind of high school band. Like our high school band was somewhere in the middle. Like we're pretty good. A very band focused high school. Not too many other sports to speak of, like no football team or anything. So there's like, yeah, band is our thing, and like they sent them to all these competitions and stuff all around the world, and they did fine, and they win ribbons and whatever. So that's good. Like it's good when the school focuses on a thing. So those kids got a great start, so they could have probably pursued it. A lot of them. Actually, shout out to Taylor Knox, a graduate of Aurora High, great musician, was in bands back then, and now a solo musician around Toronto and Southern Ontario. Check him out on Spotify.
That's a good shout out.
Oh, you know who played? You know who played in Taylor Knox's touring band? Robin Hatch,
Oh yeah, Robin
mutual
Hatch.
mutual follower, I think, of
Yeah.
ours. I just noticed that because I
I
checked to
want
see
her to
who.
play in one of my touring bands one of these days if I should ever have one. She's so
Oh,
good.
that's huge. Yeah, she's very cool.
She's so good. I mean, I think she's also really in demand just in general whenever there are touring bands to go around. But I would just
Right.
shout that out and say
That's
it.
true. Yeah, you got to put it
She's
out there
super
in the
great.
universe, and
Yeah.
maybe friends of the show can make it happen. Be very cool. Yeah, she was not to make this the Robin Hatch show, but she
I
was.
mean, it kind of should be I mean, let's be fair. She's a little bit more interesting than I am. Well, a lot a bit more interesting
Well,
than I
we'll
am. But
see. Yeah. So she was in Taylor Knox's band, bringing it all the way back. She just performed. She just did like a residency at this crazy Tonto machine, like crazy synthesizer.
see, Tonto, not Tano.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's great. That's a great riff. That's a great pullback. Everyone should be laughing at home right now because the machine is Tonto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it. Great job, Kiefo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So anyways, how do I cycle all the way back? Aurora High School, musicians, Taylor Knox. We did it.
Woo!
So, you're a musician. What is it like? Pro musician life. What are some of the coolest things? Do you have any gnarly tour stories? Hit us up. Name drop some.
Yeah, the name drop, the cool thing I've done with my career, the one cool thing, I don't know, I've done more than one cool thing, maybe, hopefully, but the big high profile gig I had was playing bass for Glenn Campbell, the country
Glenn
legend Glenn Campbell.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Woo.
And
So
that
you were
was
in
some
his...
years ago at this point. The
Right.
time is gone and stretched away. He's no longer with us, and but it was still the high point of, being a so-called pro, I guess, if you can call me that. But
Yeah.
being on a real legit tour, playing bass there was really great.
Pretty sure if you're supporting yourself with your music, that's what I say. It's then that's what you can do it. Call yourself a professional. And Glenn Campbell, very cool. So you're bopping it out to Rhinestone Cowboy.
Yeah, and Wichita Lineman, and
Oh yeah.
by the time I get to Phoenix and all these great tunes.
And that's really cool. And so, like people obviously losing it, loving it, like the people showing up, like you can't, at that point, it's like just like you're seeing like a legend.
I mean, it was a really singularly very cool experience, very unique, special experience. Like, I don't know if you know the whole kind of story behind that tour at all, if you've heard, but that was actually what brought me to Toronto. In fact, I can get into that.
Yeah, yes, let's hear it.
Is that he had Alzheimer's, and this final tour was sort of like, it was a way to keep him happy and healthy, because being on the road, being in that structure, surrounded by family and friends, like his kids were in the band and his wife was with us, and most of the personnel was people he'd known for 20, 30 years. And just that environment was really comfortable for him.
Right.
And it was really good for him to be out there. Like, when he was out there, he was always really just like in good spirits, and he was performing really well, and just everything was great. But it was something to be managed too. It was a bit of a balancing act, because of the Alzheimer's, things could go awry here and there, and they had to steer it back in a comfortable way and keep him healthy, keep him happy. And basically, the Toronto show was the first show I ever did with them, and it was because they had a previous bass player who was fantastic, really was doing everything great, and but he was I almost said Swedish. He was Norwegian national, and he didn't have a passport to go to Canada, and he couldn't get one in time. I think that's what happened. There was a hiccup with him getting to that
snafu.
show.
In steps
so
Kiefo. Can anyone play bass? Does anyone know Rhinestone Cowboy on bass?
Pretty much, but I'd known the family prior to that, and we'd been hanging out with his kids and stuff. I'd been hanging out with his kids, and basically, they were like, well, we need a bass player in a pinch, and we know Kiefo can do it, so let's get him on, and he can come to Canada. And we did that show, and then we went to New Brunswick, and we did a show there. And it was the CNE Fest, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, the Canadian National Exhibition.
Yeah, CNE Fest. I
still
have a little water bottle that they gave me.
CNE.
Okay, just CNE.
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense. It might be a little redundant to say Exhibition Fest, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that was really that was the first show I did with them, and it just sort of was, But then the full-time bass player came back and continued on with the tour for another few months, and then essentially what happened there was, through no fault of his own, Glenn, and this is kind of an expression of the Alzheimer's, Glenn started to kind of pick on him. It was weird, but he just sort of would be like, for some reason, just the bass and that situation, he was just like, he just didn't like it anymore. He just was upset by it. And it was really weird, because it's like he was doing everything right. It was completely it was the disease more than anything.
Man,
but eventually it got to a point where it's starting to derail the shows a little bit.
Yeah.
So they said, well, let's try something else.
Make a change.
And at that point, they had already, known me, and they'd already seen that I could do it. And so they brought me on and did like 60 shows or something.
Wow.
Over the course of like a year. And it was really good. Almost all of them went really well. And yeah, it was solid.
And then you locked in those chops, like those hours of touring where you're getting in the van, or I don't know what the setup was.
I would like to think so. I mean, that's the only real high-profile tour I've done. Everything else has been playing locally, or putting together my own shows, or playing sessions, or just smaller scale things.
Okay, yeah.
So I would like to think so, but I just haven't really had the opportunities, to come up. So.
And nowadays, maybe shifting to that kind of stuff is even better. I mean, it could be. Now is like the boom time for more of that. Then, I mean, performing sort of dried up. It's gonna boomerang back. So I think the opportunities when things really open up. So get your chops tight. Start writing that next EP. Start tinkering away.
Or just start trying to surfboard and
Well,
pretend
you could
like
write
nothing's happening.
you could write a sweet surfing EP.
Yeah, right.
Like how hard it is to scrape the wax. These are just ideas for songs.
Yeah.
Just writing them down. I know you probably have like a whiteboard there. You're just like, got that. So doing musician stuff. No gnarly tour stories, really. I mean, that's a pretty cool tour story.
And there's some fun stories within that, but that's just sort of the whole. That was just the one cool thing I've done.
That's the headline. That's the lead. That's the main story. So bass. Why bass? Do you really gravitate towards bass, or are you like a multi-instrumentalist? You consider yourself a multi-instrumentalist and not really bass?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a bass player. I can play some piano, I can play some drums or whatever, but I really consider myself a bass player primarily. And
you can play piano, eh?
That's piano, right?
He takes the cue, folks.
Yeah. I had to like stretch awkwardly to do that, and then I just realized it's funnier if I just hit notes. So
doubly good. He hit the cue and added it. A to C, played it bad.
But bass was cool. That's really all it was. I mean, this was back in like middle school, probably. I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I was playing at the time in the school band, like saxophone and a trumpet and some, band instruments.
Yeah.
And at some point, I got a friend, and he was like, I think I want to play bass. And I was like, yeah, bass is kind of cool. So we both picked up the bass around the same time, and we were taking lessons from the same guy at the same music store for like,
that's great.
Just 1 year.
So you had a friend, you guys could both like bass it out.
Yeah, kind of
dueling basses.
Yeah, kind of benchmark off of each other. And after maybe, the first year of that, I just took to it really well. And I think having that friend also informed it, because I was outpacing him, like just for whatever reason.
You saw your progress versus their progress.
Yeah, and I just felt like it just felt right to play the bass. It just was a really good instrument for me, and I enjoyed it, and enjoyed learning about it and just challenging it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think musical people who maybe are more rhythmic will gravitate towards the rhythm, more rhythmy instruments, either drums or bass or whatever. Different percussions, but then it's people gravitate to other lead guitar or like other instruments like saxophone. Everyone wanted to play saxophone, I remember. Like saxophone's very cool, but it really is very specific.
Well, that might have had something to do with like, the late 90s like ska revival and stuff.
It
like the
could
swing
have been.
revival.
It could have been that swing and ska. Those were huge.
Yeah. I was definitely into that stuff when I was
really
in
got
school.
into it. I really got into that swing stuff. Those Gap commercials really got me. Remember those Gap commercials? What was it? Louis Prima. They revamped it. I'm like, oh man, Louis Prima's my shit now.
Yep.
Just all of a sudden, huge into swing music.
And then you took to the internet and went to the comment board and said, I'm 14 and I like Louis Prima.
Yeah.
I don't like Green Day. I like Louis Prima.
Jumping, jiving, and wailing over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of here with your long view. Actually, that's a sick bass riff. So what are some of your favorite bass riffs? What got you hooked? What was your first bass riff that you're like, nailed it and felt great about it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, early on, I was really big into Primus. If you remember Primus?
Yeah. Winona's Big Brown Beaver. That's some hard shit. That
was just like
super hard,
like rock music, but it was bass rock music. So
it's all bass centered, right?
Yeah.
And he's like it's like slappy, super slap pop weird, right? Like FX on it, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Sorry, a lot of weird.
Yeah, he had that 6-string fretless bass that he would
man, that guy was nuts. What was that guy's name?
Les Claypool.
Yeah, he is one of the best. One of the top bass guys when you think about bass.
If I grab my bass.
Oh yeah.
That's like one of those Primus.
Yeah.
I don't really remember any of them anymore, but like I definitely liked all that stuff back in the day, all that slap stuff, and it's just.
I just learned that was only invented in like the 70s or whatever with that celebration. Who was it?
Yeah, Larry Graham and Louis Johnson are kind of credited as the originators of it, and the story I've heard, I don't know. I mean, it's something like I guess they were playing in church and they didn't have a drummer, so they just needed more percussive
They needed
Time
up,
that
and
way.
he was playing the drums as the bass. Yeah.
Yeah, and we joke about the whole slap the bass, but like it's a cool
That was a
sound. It's
crazy,
fun.
game-changing
It's
thing for the
fun.
instrument. Like, oh
I'm
yeah.
an advocate for it. I think that it gets unfairly like kind of shuttled away, but I think it's a lot of fun.
I think it's definitely like a tool that can be dropped in at a moment's notice, and all like the best people can just like throw a little slap, throw a little pop in it, and it doesn't have to be the whole thing. Like you can really add a extra flair, but it also can be the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean that's it. And another big bass hero of mine, of course, is Victor Wooten, and Victor
Yeah.
Wooten has a whole thing where he talks about like it's just a way to strike the strings. You can strike the string however you want, and if you kind of think of it that way, it's not in the box of I'm playing slap now, I'm playing this now, I'm doing a double thumb now. It's just a
Right.
way to strike the strings. So
It's all just sound wiggling. It's all just air
just
wiggling.
yeah, it's just air wiggling.
Friggin' air. Yeah. Feels like we're just transitioned to a different Seinfeld scene.
Well, so that's right because the Seinfeld thing like that. Yeah, so that's what. That's
Does it
kind of
make
what
you
I'm talking
mad
about.
that
Like,
it's a
like slap bass just
keyboard?
has that weird, associations with it. You hear it and you're just like, Seinfeld,
It got
But
co-opted, even though, like I said, it's a synth, right? The guy's just
it
like,
is. Yeah, all that was keyboard stuff.
like you can't really play it like that. I mean, you could, but this guy's just dropping in on the keys.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna embarrass myself by thinking I know how to play it because I don't. But yeah, whatever.
So, what is your when you drop into Guitar Center, grab that fresh, most expensive bass off the wall, plug in, turn it way up? What would you play?
Oh, and I want to show off.
Yeah, show off, or like, what's your favorite? Like warm up, not warm up, but like when you're ready to go, make sure you play that to make sure that you're tight.
Oh, I mean,
Oh yeah,
like Victor Wooten. That's a
yeah, it
Victor Wooten.
really whips the llama's ass.
Yeah, but really though, I mean, I just don't go to Guitar Center because I got a
Right.
bass already.
And
so
that's
I
not
don't need
even
that.
a Canadian thing. I use that an American reference for you.
Yeah, where would you go? Where would you go? Where's your Guitar Center relative?
Lots of different places. There's a place in Toronto called Steve's.
Hey,
It's nice.
bringing it back.
Bring it back. Yeah, there is a place that I'm forgetting. The place that I would always go to, and it's in everywhere in Toronto.
Yeah, it's Steve's is fine. We can just go with that.
Steve's is fine. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, that's great bass playing. That's very cool. I love having that splashed in there. Make
Yeah, I
it
figure you
splashy.
got a mixer. You gotta mix. Use the mixer to mix things in.
It's very cool. You just like, yeah, you should be you should be a guest on podcast. Just add a little flair. I'm just like, okay, and now, and you're like, da 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 da. You just do the interstitials live.
Oh, right. Well, the thing is, I have a fretless bass too, but it's 2 feet further to reach, so
Right.
I can't reach it right now.
Yeah, I picture
if
that
it
you're
was
like
closer, I would have grabbed that one
just
instead.
everything's just out of reach.
Yeah, but
Tantalizingly close, like that stand-up bass, and you're just like, can't
yeah,
quite reach it.
that's on the other side of the room. But
That's very cool too. Seeing the old stand-up bass. I know our boys, Canadian boys, Bare Naked Ladies was the first time I was really introduced to the stand-up bass, being just like it's just the bass, but it's just he plays it. It's like a big thing, and he stands it up and plays it, but it sounds in the music like a regular. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, and we talk about slap bass, and actually, the electric slap bass stuff that we were talking about, Larry Graham and Louis Johnson, but the upright bass, there was a slap technique that dates back even further on the upright bass. So there was kind of a precedent for slapping the upright bass that dates back at 40s, 50s or so, if not earlier. And it's kind of a different technique, but the concept has always kind of been there.
Right. It's still that
to
percussive
incorporate that rhythmic,
rhythm.
extra percussive rhythmic element.
Because then you get that low high, or like that thumb forefinger back and forth kind of thing, and it's like the bass snare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can fill it out and really make a cool vibe with it.
Man, cool vibe. Do you have the box? Do you have the Peruvian box? I think that's my favorite thing
Oh,
to
yeah.
ask people that if they have like musicians or whatever. Because I once saw a guy. The first time I saw the guy, it was just like a guy with a box and a guitar player, like a 12-string guitar player.
Yeah, the
And
cajon.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just really really cool to see, but like all the different sounds that you can get out of that
Yeah, I don't have one, but
little
they are
box
they
thing.
are quite neat. And I've seen like you can one like if you a cajon hack is to use a kick drum pedal as well, so you
Mm-hmm.
can get like almost like a full kit type of a
Mm.
vibe. Because you can
Yes.
keep a little bit more normal. But that's a good one. Maybe I should look into getting one.
I would say if you're like a pro
Like
music,
instead of an
multiple
office chair,
musician.
just use that as your chair.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
gym people use the ball.
Yep.
Musicians should use the cajon.
Yeah. I think that's how you say it, cajon.
I mean, I hope so. Otherwise, the cajon community going to be up in arms over this
Yep.
episode.
Yep. Well,
gonna-
either way, they are quite cool though.
They're very cool. You gotta check it. I just call it, what do I call it? The Peruvian slap box. That's probably
I think you did say something like that.
that's
Yeah.
a disrespectful
Well,
sounding term.
Peruvian slapbox very well might have an Urban Dictionary definition that we don't want to find out. So
Yeah. Yeah, it came up. It is cajon, cajon, slapbox cajon. Cajon is a box-shaped percussion instrument originally from Peru, played by slapping the front or rear faces with the hands, fingers, or sometimes implements such as brushes, mallets, or sticks. Do you have a lot of brushes, mallets, and sticks over there?
I've got some sticks. I have a pack of drumsticks. No
Okay.
brushes, no mallets.
Oh, man, brushes are key. Just when you want to
Yeah.
bring it down a bit for an acoustic session, that's when you want to have the brushes, right?
That's what they tell me.
I love a good brush where they whip it out. They're just like, oh, this is going to get quiet. All right, so I think we've covered most of the things on my bullet list. Oh, it says here in your Twitter bio that you run a different account.
Yeah, I co-run the account for my dad's sort of legacy page that we have set up for his music.
Very cool. And what does that entail, like running that, co-running
It's
it?
mostly my sister who does most of the heavy lifting there, but
Mhm.
I check it and I contribute. We have some, me and my sisters and my brothers, we talk about what's going to go up there sometimes and workshop things and, refine things sometimes, but mostly I just keep an eye on it.
Okay, so you're like the B checking person.
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff do you put out there? What kind of content are you promoting? And do you have, is there like a foundation? Do you have like a title? Are you doing any work or something?
No, it's really just, we just bill it as the official account for the Harry Nilsson estate, and that's really just a way of sharing stories and sharing the music and just stuff pertaining to my dad's career. So like a recent post that my sister put up was a photo from 1940 of the apartment building that he lived in, that he grew up in Brooklyn.
Oh,
And
cool.
that's just like a cool old photo.
Yeah.
But she also put next to it a photo that she took in Brooklyn of that same building like 5 or 6
man.
years ago. So,
Hell
the
yeah.
kind of comparison there.
Man, internet loves that stuff. The before and after, the where are they now, the this is what it was, here it is now.
Yeah, so just stuff, stuff that
great.
we think might be interesting that fans of the music might like. And
Yeah, very cool. Cool content up over there on that account.
And
I
it's
guess
on Instagram too, @official Nilsson.
Official Nilsson, not verified.
So Twitter turned off their verification,
Yeah.
but Instagram verified us. So that's cool.
Okay, so as long as you link to the official Instagram from your official Twitter, that should cover that up.
I guess so.
I should
it's one of
close the
those
loop on if
things.
anyone is questioning whether or
Yeah.
not you're officially the estate.
It could be worse. It could say real official Nilsson.
Yeah. Real official underscore.
Yeah.
I never know what to do for mine. Is mine going to be real Skinner Steven? Or I'm not sure about that. My legacy estate where they share all my old tweets.
Yeah, that's something that's a very personal matter. You gotta just kind of decide for yourself, I feel.
We'll look into it. I'll get my daughter on it.
Yeah.
We'll leave it for her to handle. All right, so what's next for Kiefo? You don't know? Everything's quite up in the air at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been, hiatus limbo for the last year plus because of pandemic. I mean, prior to that, I was working on concerts that I was putting out of some of my dad's material. The show The Point, or his record The Point. So the show was based around that record, and we were putting together these shows, and we'd done like 5 of them, and they'd all gone pretty well, and we were just trying to build on that and book some more, including was hoping to get on the East Coast and do maybe New York or maybe Toronto,
All the way up there.
Chicago. Just get out, to another location, and all that was kind of in development. Emails, kind of just thinking about it, but it all is on
everything
pause
got
now, so.
iced due to
Next to that, I play in a band called Brother Sister, and that's not my actual brothers and sisters. It's just the name of the band. But that's a project from my friend Bobby Halverson. That's kind of his main thing. He writes the songs, and he's the lead singer. I'm just the bass player. But we have been playing together now for almost 3 years, and it's really, really great music. I just really enjoy playing it a lot. And we just put out a new video for a new song. We've been recording stuff in our sort of bedroom setup, really kind of DIY, lo-fi way of doing it, like calling them our quarantine sessions. And
yeah, that's nice.
We've made a few of these. This is the 5th or 6th one, and they're good. They're fun. Just slap the videos together and make a cool song. And
I mean, yeah, that's what musicians do. That's what you're doing. Love to hear it.
It's kind of the same thing with Brother Sisters, that we had shows on the books, and we were slowly trying to build our momentum. Like every band's trying to slowly build momentum as much as they can, and then everything just gets suspended. So it's a little bit just of a weird time right now. But
really sucks to be in one of those. You just happen to be in one of those industries that just completely got slapped by this specific type of global emergency. Like, sorry, like other things are still going, like people are still doing other stuff, but just this one specific thing, it's basically like everyone's agreeing that this is bad to do right now. So just like the worst, just a very unlucky thing, as opposed to the very lucky thing like finding your camera. It balances out.
Yeah, exactly. So
multiple year global pandemic.
Yep. And can't complain really. It's once in a lifetime event. What can you do about that? Like, well. It's just, that feeling of you're trying to do some stuff. You're trying to.
You had plans.
You're trying to have some plans. And having that stuff suspended, it's just awkward. Yep. It's just a weird feeling, is all.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least it happened to every single person on the planet, kind of thing. Like, at least we're all we can all complain to each other about it.
Yeah, I mean, they say, like, when you're in your 30s, it's like the worst question that you want to be asked is, so what are you up to lately? And so now we have an excuse, so we can just say, oh, well, everything's not working anymore. And they go, oh, yeah, it's cool. I get it. And it just totally lets you off the hook.
We're off the hook for this small talk for at least, I don't know, what, 1 or 2 more years? Let's leave. Let's leave that. What are you up to off the table for till 2025?
Yeah, that's my plan anyway.
All right, very cool. So everyone should be following Kiefo at Kiefo Nilsson on Twitter and on your Instagram that I didn't know about, obviously. Got to go correct that. Yeah. Follow you over there.
That's different. That's Samo_wild.
Samo_wild.
So for Santa Monica Mountains Wildlife.
Oh, I get it. Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's coming up already on Pikuki, which I think is a weird site that doubles people's Instagrams. It creates a duplicate site of.
I was not aware.
Yeah, I've recently found that out, and it's weird. And there are websites that duplicate other websites. Like there's other websites that have like my tweets and like the page and everything, but it's not Twitter. It's like some other page. Anyways.
Yeah, the internet was a mistake, wasn't it? Like, that's what we're really getting around to, just understanding.
It's not a mistake. We're just in the era of, look at these dumb idiots. They don't know how to use the internet, right? They haven't learned how to curate this life-changing information. Like, all life-changing information is just out there. Like, we could find life-changing information right now if we just knew how to do that, right? Like,
well, it was fairly life-changing to find the name of the Peruvian slapbox. I mean,
I found that
on.
within seconds. I found it
Within
live,
seconds, yeah.
and I can do that.
That has
But how does
changed
that
your
help
life.
me? It helps the podcast.
Yeah.
So we're getting there, is what I'm saying. And it only took us how many years of the internet to be able to get that infrastructure in place? So hopefully my daughter will be able to figure it all out for me in the far future. All right. Now, Cajon, let's start to wrap it up. And I guess, okay, I'll play the podcast theme, but maybe you can play your own podcast theme after. And we'll say our goodbyes. Boom.
All right, we'll say our goodbyes.
Yeah. So thanks so much for being on the podcast, Kiefo.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun to chat.
It's a great chat, and everyone go check him out and check out those pictures of Santa Monica wildlife. See you next time.
Later.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Kiefo. What a nice bass man. Now go check out his performance link in the show notes, and of course give him a follow on Twitter and on Instagram. Those photography is great. Now, if you're a new listener, well, thank you very much. You can check out all the past episodes. Just visit www.steventwskinner.com or find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Podverse. Remember, leave a rating and review if you can. Follow at FOTS Pod on Twitter to find posts about the latest episodes. And go follow me on Twitter at SkinnerSteven. I got those jokes. Special thanks to Ruby Coast for this great music. Special thanks to Kyle I. Davidson for the great theme. And special thanks to you for listening. I am Stephen W. Skinner. Have a great one.